Hey everyone, welcome back to Hanging with the Hoopers podcast. Tim and Andrew Hooper, your hosts, where we believe that the attitude of leadership is everything. It's the heart of leadership. It's how you connect with the people in your influence and how they receive that. And it's all about the heart. And so, Andrew, we got some fun things going on. We got sports. We've been talking. Of course, you always educate me on sports. You've brought me up to speed on a lot of sports. Growing up overseas, it was just soccer. That was easy. 2 goals, run this way or run that way. If it goes out of bounds, that's a bad thing. Over here, you have football, and if you go out of bounds, that's a good thing. So when you're watching that clock, so it depends.
Yeah,
when you're playing that clock. So
the way the refs see it, with the zebras are calling games certain ways. The NFL has to keep their favorite people in the running. It's all scripted. We know that, right? I'm joking.
I don't buy into. I'm a purist. I do not buy into that line. However, in college football, we know now it is all scripted. So tell us about that and why Alabama should absolutely
it's not scripted. It's not. This is a hot topic right now, and it's slightly annoying to me because we always talk about leadership.
Does it have anything to do with leadership?
Probably. But if not, I'm just going to rant about it for a few minutes.
Are we stretching on this podcast? We're reaching.
Probably. Yeah. Hey, you're not doing it right if you're not reaching at times. That's right. Good leaders always find a way to tie it back, right? They always find a way to tie it back.
Well, let's see if the attorneys...
There's always a life lesson in everything that happens, right? That's the... as some people in my life would say, probably being toxic leadership. Everything has to be a lesson. We can't just be okay with stuff sometimes, but right? I mean, seriously.
Occupation.
No, Alabama got into the college football playoff with a 1-loss record. Texas got in with 1 loss, but Texas did beat Alabama, so by that logic, Texas should have been in. But the big story there was the team that got left out, Florida State. 13-0, didn't lose a game, won the ACC championship game, and you put an SEC team in who's a 1-loss over them, and it goes back to just the quote power conferences and where more money is spent, from everything from media to now that they can pay college players and all that good stuff, and the committee's unwillingness to leave out an SEC team, and I'm not so invested in it, honestly. I could care less, but when you look at the merits of what happened, it's kind of like, okay, that sucks for those players at Florida State who controlled. We talk about Stephen Covey, draw a circle around yourself, control what's in that circle.
Yeah,
every single one of those players and coaches on Florida State team absolutely control what they needed to control, won every single game, won their conference championship, and then a bunch of group of guys in a building somewhere puts in, Bama. And I like Bama, one of my good buddies, shout out to Mark out in California. He's a big Bama fan. And, Roll Tide, right?
We got lots of friends.
Tim has a funny story about Roll Tide. But anyway, it's not to belabor the point, man. But at some point, looking at it as a business versus looking at it based on merit, I think there's probably some leadership lessons in there.
Sure.
I don't necessarily profess to know what they are, but that's kind of the state of college football. But yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that or no? I mean, where are you at with it? I mean, you have a funny Bama story you should share.
Well, yes, there's this state rivalry, and here's the other thing too: is did Alabama ever have to pay for poisoning orange trees? I mean, this could be karma, and we just, because of committees, we have just circumvented karma, right? So you got to think about this.
What happened with the trees? Is this facts, or did you just make something up?
I gotta go back to and bro, you have to forgive me, and everybody watching, you're gonna rip me a new one, because I'm not the college sports fanatic. I'm even not pro football fanatic, really not. And we're gonna get into the Bengals and the Packers here in a second, but Andrew has educated me on sports. And truly, we grew up with soccer, and that was about it. Baseball, I know baseball pretty well. We played that. We had a whole team, 14 siblings. Like, we were able to really put the team on for baseball. We could field
a team in any sport.
Yes, well, we really could. Volleyball, loved volleyball. Like, there are certain things. But
we had football, intramural sports in the family.
You taught me the rules, and soccer, like, the playoff rules and all this. But you're right. When you get too many, and here's the thing. Here's, I think, the leadership lesson here is when you get too many layers and structures, you don't keep it simple. That's where you start you're really going to start alienating people, and you're going to start creating where the recognition isn't based on just solid good effort. So you really need to think through keeping it simple and not having so many layers. That might be the lesson here. But go back to 2000 and I think it was 9, and I just started leading the sales team. Maybe it's 2010. I can't remember. But I just started leading the sales team, and we're going down. We're knocking on doors. I'm like, guys, our goal this 6-month period. It was like broken down over 2 quarters. We are going to penetrate 100 new factories, and we were in the automotive space. We supplied these automated lines to all the tier 1s, tier 2s for like Honda and Nissan, Toyota, GM, and Ford. So
you were spending a lot of time in the Southeast,
all over the place, baby, and all the big college towns. It was really cool. So anyway, we go over to Opelika. Now, again, freshly in the States for a couple of years. All I knew was
stop justifying your
factory was in Tennessee. Our factory was in Tennessee, and when we went down to Fayetteville, Tennessee, it was so close to Alabama that
this is all about doing pre-call discovery for sales.
Pre-call discovery and sales. Pre-call. So I would walk into the guard shacks like in Fayetteville, Tennessee. I was like, how's it going? And always during college football season, I said, so how's it going? How you doing? And the guard shack guy he said, it was a great day till I smelled that stench. And I'm like, what stench? He says, the Alabama stench. And come to find out, Alabama had just beat UT, right? So it was like University. So anyway, so it was registered in my brain that Roll Tide was bad and orange was good, the big orange. So
when you're in East Tennessee,
when you're in Tennessee, East Tennessee, but even Nashville, a lot of UT fans, right? So in South. But anyway, so it just Roll Tide was Alabama. So I roll into Opelika, Alabama, and I didn't know Auburn was right down the road. Didn't know what Auburn was. Well, I knew Auburn was. I didn't know that they were such a state rival. But anyway, so I walk in there, and of course, winging it a little bit, and walked in there with the donuts, and walked in there with some swag, and then walked in there. We were having a big engineering meeting. I'm like, what do you think about them? Roll Tide. I had everybody looking at me like, you didn't just say that. And there were a couple guys there and gals who were Alabama, who had graduated Alabama. So, but
the vast majority were giving you daggers.
Oh man, it was bad.
Was this before or after that Alabama fans poisoned the Auburn oak trees?
I think it was before.
Allegedly.
I think it was before, because that
was this a proven fact? You never answered that. Was this a proven fact? Or?
Well, all of the fact checkers out there
is this a folk tale?
Everybody out there can look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was like the next year. I'm pretty sure, but I think they actually caught the guy, and Carmen might have already come to fruition there. But
what you're saying is we shouldn't be painting every Bama fan with a brush of that they poison Auburn.
Don't paint every Bama fan with a brush, and there's probably lots of Bama fans out there who would listen to this podcast and hear Andrew say from a leadership. Yeah, go plant a tree. But no, but from a leadership perspective, the layers, the structure, the committees, leaving this up to somebody's, bias, as opposed to basing it on merit. That's kind of why I think this is going.
Hey, I'm not saying Bama doesn't. It's not that Bama doesn't have merit. Here's the issue: to have 4 teams in a college football playoff is just stupid. It really is. Like, the playoff needs to be bigger, and they are expanding, I believe, next year to 12 teams. So it'll eliminate a lot of these issues. But it's hard because those guys that are seniors on that Florida State team who worked their butts off to get an undefeated record, win the conference championship, they're not going to get an opportunity to come back next year and experience what they should have been able to experience.
What is the what's going to be fun though? It's and all you Florida fans, I feel for you. My best friend is Florida, so I feel for you. But here's the thing. Here's what's going to be cool. In about 4-5 years, you're going to have us rooting for you because you came out of that adversity, and then you're like joining these teams as a rookie quarterback, and then we're going to be rooting. You're going to have something. You're going to have that little chip on your shoulder, and we always talk about having an abundant mindset and not letting the chip drive you, letting love and gratitude drive you. But let's be honest, there's always that little bit of a chip. So that could be your little chip. And then when you get
Hey, it can be some fuel. It could be some fuel. You got to know how to channel that fuel.
Didn't you tell me Hurts was passed over in Alabama or something? Or did he?
Kind of. I mean, he was benched for Tua and then ended up transferring in Oklahoma, and you know. So yeah, I know we're big fans of Jalen Hurts because of his mentality and his approach to the game, and
win or lose,
a lot of leadership.
Work.
That's right. There's
win
a lot
or
of
lose
leadership lessons we can learn from Jalen. Yeah,
that's good.
So, but we do have a lot of Cowboys fans that listen to this, so we can't
Florida,
be too high
for
on
what
Jalen,
it's worth.
Go Dak Prescott's doing pretty good this year too.
He is.
I gotta share equal love there. So you know, we'll just leave it at that.
Hey, everybody's worked hard, but for Florida, we're in your corner, and all of our thousands of fans, they're in your corner. So,
well, now that we've talked for about 10 minutes about sports, which is why everyone listens to us.
Andrew, you're really good at sports. You should do a sports podcast. You really should.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, right. I can't be your ride or die on that one.
That's okay. If there's any listeners who want to do a sports podcast with me, let me know, and I'll be game to do it with you. I'm open. I'm taking applications.
We could take call in. You should do just a segment of ours that you could take some call in.
That'd be cool. Let us know if you want us to do call-ins. You want to call in and give us crap on the show? Like, please do. It'd be fun. But no, I'm excited about it. So yeah, some leadership lessons there. You know, you talked about merit versus, flashy, right? Maybe is what you could say there.
Or bias.
In our organization.
I mean, somebody sucked up to the leader. Somebody has a committee member in their pocket. Maybe you hired this sales person. Maybe the salesperson is your family member. Ooh, we've seen that happen. And they never get called out for anything. They're low performing, and everyone on the team knows it. And they just never get called out for anything, and they're kind of chosen to go to the events and stuff. And it's like the people who are crushing it based on merit, they see right through that stuff. So you just the leadership lesson I think is bias, and maybe it's not bias, maybe it's favoritism versus merit. Really, at the end of the day. So yeah, for sure.
It's funny, because we're brothers, we work together, and we're talking about family members working together. But we see it.
Have I ever given you an out, bro? I mean,
never.
Really, being very never. This wasn't even scripted. Have I ever given you an out? Like, no. I've always had this belief that you should be tougher on your family. You should love harder and deeper because you can, but you should also be tougher and call them out quicker. I truly believe that, especially if you work together.
Well, I would say that's not going to fly in every family. Some families already have some pretty deep rifts, but we're pretty close.
It's true. It's not.
We're close. We have. I would say it this way: when you have the relationship equity to call out faster and harder, you should. And Tim and I, the amount of time we spend in the car together, in hotel rooms together, doing things together, we have a ton of relationship equity. So yes, we do call each other out faster and harder than most probably would. But that is a key to success when working with a family member is don't hold things in. Don't let that resentment build. Get it out, address it early and often, and don't let, I think in our industry, we can sometimes see family members as in children or whatnot. And that's where you got to be, if you're leading a team, just always have the same standard across the board for how you hold your team accountable in the same type of role. Right. It's critical. So, and I think for the most part, everyone we work with, Tim, who has family, does an exceptional job. And
oh yeah, for sure.
But we can see where those things can undermine a team, or the teacher's pet thing, and the one I saw recently that was kind of funny is, and you said it was, maybe it's one of your hires and the other people on your team weren't your hires. And so your hires always have a higher spot in your heart or in your approach because you hired them versus, the people, because the challenge there is that it's harder to build a relationship with someone you didn't hire. There's some initial loyalty you get when you hire somebody.
Sure there is. Yeah.
And when you hire somebody and you have that initial loyalty, it's easy. If you have a good onboarding, you have a good training program, it's easier to get them kind of on your quote unquote straight and narrow path that you want to take them down for whatever the role is. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And mentor them and help them grow. It's easier to kind of get them onto that straight and narrow path if you hired them, where with those you didn't hire, it takes so much more emotional intelligence and so much more relationship building skill to be able to actually empathize, relate, build influence, not just have the authority. Right. Right. So, that's kind of like the idea today is kind of talking about, mentoring folks and bringing folks along and the different styles of people. eliminating churn, staff churn in our business. One of the biggest costs of doing business is people. And the cost is just magnified immensely when we're
Yep.
constantly turning people over because they're not a quote fit. And I think sometimes the quote, they're not a fit can be an excuse, Tim. So what do you think about all of that I just said? Give me your notes, cliff notes.
Well, I think that, we read the book Top Grading in the past, and it's all about, A, B, and C, and always looking to move C to B, or C, you coach up or coach out, and it's moving C to B, and then who B, B player could become an A player, and then also always building your bench. That the AB, what is it? Always be recruiting, ABR. Always be recruiting, right? You're always looking for who's that next A player who you could hire. So if you want to look at it that way, I like where you went with this. Is that initial loyalty is definitely built. I think as a leader, you started out, you hired some people, then you brought in a hiring manager, they've hired some people. Think about what made you successful as a leader when you were hiring, right? What the conversations you were having, the relational equity you were building, and also how do you train and coach and lead your frontline leaders and managers to do some of that, and with giving them the leeway to bring their own DNA and expertise to the table. Obviously, you've hired them and you're delegating that to them for a reason. But I think that sometimes we can start looking at, as we grow and scale, we can start looking at, we need bodies, as opposed to when you were a solo practitioner and growing, you were looking for, talent and key players and strategic ability. And you were looking at, what does Jim Collins say? Getting the right people in the bus, and then the right people in the right seats of that bus. So, and then the other thing is this too, Andrew, not necessarily creating a bias in your brain when you've heard from a manager or something that this one person's horrible and terrible. Like having some structure built in as a leader to really look, analyze that, get to the bottom of, make sure there isn't favoritism going on. Maybe you zoom in and have some one-on-ones with people, interview, and you might find that somebody who this department head says they're not fit for the job or the business. They may be perfectly fit, just need to be underneath a different mentor, different leader, or in another seat of the bus, because they're really a rock star, but they're working for somebody who's not letting them thrive, or who's micromanaging or trying to conform them to something that they're not. And so I think it just, again, it's a great, I like that you went here, because it's great to think, bias, favoritism, merit. I really think that those things absolutely apply to hiring, recruiting, firing, and mentoring. So let's dig into mentoring a little bit.
Let's just take it one piece at a time. So the first, you said a lot of things there, and like different topics to dig into when it comes to leading a team, taking over people, or hiring new people. And you've had people that have been there forever that maybe you did hire, but over time it's been harder to actually manage, and so you have to kind of rebuild sometimes as well. Let's take about one of the first things that jumped out to me that you said was, letting somebody bring in someone who is their own DNA as a leader. I do believe we see this in sports, we see this in most companies, that when you take over a new team or you're stepping into a leadership role, I think it is so critical to have somebody on the team who understands you, who's worked with you already, if possible, which is where we see, a leader, maybe leaves a company and they bring a couple people over with them because they already understand how they work. They know they work well together. And we see this in sports teams all the time. A new head coach comes in. They don't keep all the coordinators and all the assistant coaches that the previous coach had. They need their people in the building who understand their system, understand their process. And so, but I think there's a lesson in that, because when I was like 22 and moved and took my career to California, this is when I was a bank manager, and I took over a branch where the previous manager had left to a bigger branch, and they had taken all of their top people with them to the other branch. They basically pilfered this branch to go over there to the other branch and take all these people. And then they basically right off the bat had established this clique at the other branch, and it didn't go well over there for them because there's people there that were already good, but
yeah,
they felt like we could just bring, and if I don't like that, we can transfer those people somewhere else or just.
yeah.
And so I always had a problem with that because part of a good leader is being able to go into a situation with new people,
Brand new situation,
get to know them, build
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
earn the right to influence and coach,
Yeah.
earn the right to accomplish a good business result.
Hmm.
So to your point around like, yes, you need some people of your DNA. Agreed. I think it's always, if you can, bring someone with you, you know, or you hire someone that's more like you, but be careful about hiring people that are all just like you.
See, and
Because you want different ideas.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
different people on the team. That's how you become strong as a unit.
Yeah. And I'll throw a
Right.
clarification in there. When you're starting out, I would not recommend you hire your same DNA. I'm talking about it was your DNA hiring. It was your DNA hiring. You recruited as the owner. You told the story. You went after people who were talented, completely unlike you, but it was your DNA telling the story. It was your DNA that was attractive. And so then when you grow to the point where you have other people hiring, as a leader, make sure that you're passing along that DNA, or not necessarily DNA, that the structure, the philosophy, the framework for hiring the right talent, hiring differences, hiring different perspectives, hiring, diverse, hiring, so that you're not in some tunnel. You're going to limit yourself in the long term unless you bring in outside perspective and different voices. So I just want to throw a clarification in there. But to your point, Andrew, why you picked up on something I probably said wrong is because it does happen where people hire themselves or look for themselves or hire and get people who are yes people around them. We call that a regime. That's a regime. And when you leave, you have to have your hench people with you. You have to go set up your regime, because what's dangerous there is you don't have, maybe you do, but maybe you haven't exercised the character traits that it takes to be a leader, to land in a brand new environment and say, all right, back to basics. Relationships matter. Slow down to speed up. I'm going to take time. I'm going to set clear expectations. I'm going to get to know my people. And what did Simon Sinek say recently? He said that I forget which organization it is. Oh, it's a large one. But new management, they are not allowed to say anything for 90 days at company meetings. They don't come in like new leaders. They come in for 90 days. They say nothing. They come to team meetings and they listen. They can ask questions for clarification, but they're not tasked with an agenda. They're not tasked with leading it. They come in to listen and to learn and to really see who listen for strengths, who's doing what, ask questions. It's pretty powerful, actually, when you start to think about it.
Huge.
Because a lot of times
hugely powerful.
We tap a leader, you come in, and and I'm guilty, man. I've been tapped to lead teams, and within a week, you're tasked with this initiative, that initiative, and you're sitting there, and we all feel it. We all get it. It's this across the Zoom screen, or it's this across the conference room table. You could just feel it. They're not doing this, but inside of their heart, their eyes, the way they're showing up, sometimes you just feel this. Not everybody, but you feel this. It's like, yeah. We've been through leaders that came in here strong and had all this stuff. We just waited them out. We'll wait you out too. Instead of slowing down to speed up, taking the time, some one-on-one time, some small group time, some team activity, team event time to really digest who we are, how we work together, what our strengths are. So this is definitely important. Andrew, let's go into the mentoring just a little bit, because I think mentoring's vastly important, probably understated the importance of mentorship, passing the baton, also cross-mentoring, so that you're not the only one holding a position down. But I think mentoring goes wrong often too, because, we have a prescription as a leader, and we don't seek to understand first.
Yeah. Our last podcast talking about one-on-ones is kind of a basis for mentorship, because a lot of mentoring is going to happen. Yeah. You need to have a structure for mentoring your team. is every single person on your team going to be someone you mentor? No. But as far as building strengths, building a bench, mentorship takes it a step further, right? And Tim, I don't know what we haven't. This is not scripted. I have not talked to you about this, but I've always believed that you're as the mentor, you're not choosing who you want to mentor. They need to ask. As a mentee needs to ask to be mentored, or express a desire to accomplish something more, which brings them into more of a mentorship with you.
Yeah.
Because there has to be where coaching is, hey, I'm going to coach you on the team regardless of anything else. Like, because my mission is to help you become better and personally, professionally, wherever I can. And that's my heart.
Right.
Mentorship is where they now need to go above and beyond. Being a mentee means you need to go above and beyond what you're doing regularly to learn how to do something better, to kind of maybe learn how to fill the shoes of a leader when they exit, right? Yep. It's or learn how to become a new leader, or whatever it is. Learn how to do a new skill set. If you could be a plumber and you're doing your apprenticeship, it's the same type of thing. You're signing up to be an apprentice for X amount of time so you can now go build a craft and build your own business down the road. So Tim, I'd love your thoughts on that first, just defining mentorship, because this is not something you're going to do with everybody on your team. And we coach a lot of large teams where it's not possible, but you do need to have identified, like, who are those people on the team who have the propensity to be an upcoming leader or take the next step? And then do they exhibit a desire back to do the same thing? Because I do think sometimes we tap people, like we see potential in people, so we tap them and we kind of force them into something. And with mentorship, it's a way more of a two-way street than your everyday one-on-ones or coachings or feedback that you give, right? So Tim, what are your thoughts as we define it?
Well, great. And I'm going to read a definition. I pulled it up on my phone.
Oh, good.
Because
Let's see how far off base I was.
Well, I want to read the definition, then I want to give you my take, because I'm tracking with what you're saying. I like what you're saying. The definition here, and this is let's see here. Make sure I'm quoting. Let's see. Merriam-Webster. Here we go. Make sure I'm giving that proper attribution. All right. The meaning of mentorship is the influence, guidance, or direction given by a mentor. And basically, it's something you need to learn. Okay. Influence, guidance, or direction given by a mentor. A mentor is somebody who knows the way. I like what John Maxwell says: knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. I think that's a mentor. A coach, a lot of times, a coach doesn't necessarily isn't always given the right to be a mentor. A coach might be somebody who knows how to swing the golf club perfectly, right? And they know really how to get that technique down. A coach might be somebody who knows how to sell. Andrew, a lot of times people refer to us as their sales coach. I don't like that term, honestly. I mean, I don't. I like the term, I'm a student of sales. I like the term sales trainer, because I love training on strategies and tactics and that sort of thing. But a coach is somebody who can look into your picture and help you perfect something, some aspect of your role. Whereas I believe a mentor is more holistic. A mentor typically is somebody who has done it. They've owned the business, they've hired and fired, they've gone the paces, they've been through the ups and downs of industry cycle. I think a mentor is someone who has a wider range, wider scope on life. Also, a mentor might be somebody who's run a business as a dad of 4 or as a dad of 2, talking about us, Andrew, right? And so therefore we say, I want you to be my mentor because you get it. You get my life stage, you get what I'm up against. Whereas sometimes a coach is coming in to talk about how to strategize on scaling your business. They're not necessarily thinking through all of those aspects. So for me, I feel like a mentor is almost more of a shoulder companion, somebody that I've given trust to. And here's the thing, and this might be a disagreement, or maybe you can clarify, but I truly believe that a mentor, at least I know in my life, the best mentors, and I have purposefully asked some people to mentor me. But I think the best mentors have found their way into my life through high trust and intentional relationship, because yes, they did see potential, but they made the offer and I took them up on the offer. Now, if you're somebody out there, business owner or a leader, who you've made the offer and no one's taking you up on the offer, really, really think through, like, are you the kind of person that people would want to model? Are you the kind of person, have you earned the trust? Have you earned the right? Because mentorship takes longer, I think, to earn the right. You don't have, does that make sense? So in my mind, people should be seeking, I think the people who want to be like successful, they're going to seek out mentorship. Not everybody does. And some people have potential and they don't seek out
Yeah.
mentorship.
If I was to summarize it, no disagreements at all, bro. No disagreements at all. I think what we're
I'm
talking
happy
about
if you do.
is holistic. I know, and I would have no problem saying, dude, you're 100% wrong. So with mentorship, coaching is more of, here's what I see. Mentorship is more of, what do you see? And how can I help you move those skill sets forward to me? So it's a different approach. So if you're the coach and if you're the mentee there, or if you're the one getting coached, does it really matter how you define it? Probably not, because you could have a coach and a mentor and you feel they're all the same and interchangeable. So I'm not getting hung up on the definitions here.
Right.
But a true mentorship is, again, yes, more I'm in it with you. I've done it. You're going to a deeper level of conversation. There's more trust. It's probably a very deep relationship at some level. Mentorship is about, almost like you get to a point where you're almost family. Like there's some things you share with your mentor that you don't share with other people.
Yeah.
But the attitude of the mentee,
of
the mentee is seeking out and also sharing, hey, this is what I see in myself that I need to get. And that's where I think mentorship goes to another level here. Is it's not someone just offering coaching,
right,
or seeking out coaching from somebody. It's, you're at a point where you understand it's deeper. Like I am aware enough to know that I have to improve a skill set here. And I'm asking you to mentor me on this. And the mentor is like, okay, so what do you see? What about that skill? Like, why? And maybe the mentor is like, I disagree. Yeah. Like, I think you're just not leveraging this over here better. But that goes into the whole level of it.
Right.
And the other thing I think mentorship is not, or being a mentor, or being, if you're a mentee right now and you're getting mentored by someone, you got to be careful that someone who's mentoring you is not just trying to duplicate themselves. To me, a true mentor is being able to understand what you're looking to accomplish in your life, and then give you some really critical, based on their experiences and their knowledge and their skill sets, like critical ideas and steps. Like, Tim, you mentor me in some things as a brother. You may not even know you do, but some of the things I ask you personally are things that I lean on to help you give me some introspection into how I come across and how I am.
Yeah.
Folks that I've asked to mentor me in the past on different aspects, same thing, right? And I know you have some very powerful mentors, and you're pretty accomplished subject matter expert here, because you've not only mentored, but you consistently have good mentorship in your life. And I think that's a strong suit for you.
Well, and thank you for saying that. But you've also been proactive about asking, and that's why also that, in my life, what you say is having some strong mentors. When I see success, when I see it, like I told you before, I mean, we, unfortunately, we don't have a great role model as, like a father figure in our lives.
Right.
So seeking that out was, I found a guy who has 4 married daughters and love him to death. Like I watched the interaction. I watched him for a long time before I said, hey, could we have coffee once a quarter? I still take my kids out on dates to this day. I attribute that to his mentorship in my life, and he sticks around. He texts me here and there. How you doing? It's not just about a function. So I think coaching is more about like, here's what I've done. Here's how you could do it better, because I've gone the way. I think mentorship's more about, here's how I did it. Here's how I did it. Here's how I went about it. Here's how
it's almost like, not to get spiritual, but it's almost like, the Old Testament prophets, like that was mentorship. Like I'm not just going to the temple to hear you preach, or the synagogue, or wherever they went, or I want to go live with you.
I don't think they preached.
Whatever it was, Tim. I'm not a scholar, but they went out and like were in the desert with, like, they had to go experience what it took to be a prophet.
They pass
You know what
down.
I mean? Like there's another level to it. So coaching is given regardless if you want it or not. How many of you are listening, you've been coached when you didn't want it? It sucked. It's like, okay, but you need that tough love sometimes. Sometimes
Right.
it's not justified.
Right.
We've talked about that.
Right.
Mentorship, the reason I think mentorship is so powerful is it's you seeking it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where it turns from coaching into mentorship for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm seeking out areas I know I need to get better with strategic people who I know have gone the way and shown the way and done it in a way that's respectable and professional and done right.
And you said earlier, you said mentorship really divulges from coaching where there's a greater self-awareness. And I think that that's key. If we could challenge you as we kind of bring a wrap to this time together, is be aware of what's going on in your life, in your career, in your relationships. Be aware, gain a deeper self-awareness. It'll probably mean unplugging for a little bit. Like just go ahead and unplug. We have a lot of tech that we're plugged into. Go ahead and unplug and just really take an inventory of where you're at. Are you in the same place you've been for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
Are you stuck, or are you truly moving forward? And if you are stuck, who can mentor you? Who can help you get unstuck? If you're moving forward, how can you accelerate that? Who could help you? Who could be that mentor?
Can we talk about like reverse engineering real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're too hard on ourselves. Most of us. We're all too hard on ourselves. We're sitting here like, man, I'm still stuck. Well, go back and look back from this time last year or 2 years ago. What in your life are you now doing that you weren't doing? Reverse engineer it. All right. Give yourself props for that. Number one. And then number two, how did you get there? Make sure you've identified how you got there. Chances are you had someone giving you some sort of mentorship to get there. And you may not have even known it. You may have not have formalized a mentor-mentee relationship, but you were leaning on somebody, you were using them as a resource consistently, and they were giving them themselves as a mentor to you.
Yep.
But now that you know that's what it took, now you can be intentional as we move into 2024. Now you can go be intentional with, okay, if I went from, like for me personally, Tim, it was 2 years ago, I was not public speaking at all. 2.5. Scared the bejesus out of me. Okay. And now I do it all the time and I'm fairly comfortable doing it. What happened? You mentored me. Others in our industry that I respect mentored me. I asked their feedback. I said, hey, I think I'm not good at this when I'm speaking. How do I get better at this when I'm speaking? So there was some coaching and mentorship in there.
Yep.
And now I'm accomplished it. Now, was I intentionally thinking about, man, I have a speaker mentor? No, but I was just asking humbly from a place of, hey, I know what I need to get better at when I speak. I can self-diagnose here. How can I do it? And that is in definition like mentorship. So you've probably been asking for mentorship without even knowing it. But now that I know, as I look to 24 and do my vision board, I'm thinking, what are those next things? What's the next iteration of me? What's the next best version of me or my skill set? And how can I get the right mentors lined up now for my new year that are really going to help and support me to get where I want to go?
It's so powerful, man. And I think the self-awareness, start there, and then be proactive, reach out. Andrew, I want to end with this. You said, if you're a mentor, be careful not to try to make the other person you. And I think it's a tendency we all can have because that's our path. We know it. That's the way we went. But I think we need really, as a mentor, take that responsibility seriously. Really think first about the gift that was given us. Here's another human who's seeking out some mentorship. Here's another person who is asking for our advice. Really slow down, not just give them some short abbreviated answer, send them off in some direction, but really seek to understand, ask them some questions, and really think about, are they this person? Are they, is this the path? Like, really seek to understand, like take that gift seriously. So with that though, think about how we prescribe, things to them, because I've been around leaders who, quite frankly, Andrew, I didn't respect them. I didn't respect their personal life. I didn't respect how they treated people. I didn't respect how they talked. I didn't respect how they were loose cannons around me about others within the company. Or one thing that's always telling is people who have left the company. And when leaders have been around me talking trash about people who had left the company, like, oh, and it's almost like it feels manipulative. Like, if you ever leave, that's how I'm going to talk about you. And then all of a sudden turn around and say, hey, you have a lot of potential. I want to groom you. I want to mentor you. And it's almost, then that feels kind of flattering, because you're not, I don't see that person as having integrity. You talk trash about the person who left. I'm here and have potential and you want to mentor me? No, thank you. And I've never asked. I've been scolded by leaders in my past who, well, you never asked. And I didn't.
There's a reason for that.
I didn't. I asked somebody. It wasn't you. So
can I say one thing here? Can I say one here?
Yeah.
Because this is an important point. Just because somebody has accomplished some massive goals in their life, money, position, power, whatever it means, it does not mean they should be mentoring you.
They could be a good coach.
You have to look at the whole. You have to look at the whole, right? Yeah. And I think sometimes we can get enamored with those types of things: money, power, position. And something in my life that I think this has been something that's helped me be successful in consulting and sales and coaching is none of that means anything to me. Yep. I'm gonna treat you exactly the same, regardless if you're a millionaire or if you're the person at McDonald's. And I'm not perfect. We all have our good and bad days.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's one of my mantras, if you will. Like, just try to be as consistent as possible with everybody, regardless of that stuff. And I think so much in society we can get caught up with position, title, money, and so we think that we can learn from everybody, and that's not the case. Like, there's a guy out there on social media right now. I don't know his name. I think his last name is Pena. But he is constantly yelling and swearing and saying, you just suck, and that's why you're not making more money. And like, he makes a lot of money speaking, and you know what? That to me is like that's not the way I want to be. I don't want to be a curmudgeon when I get old. Okay? And that's how that guy comes across. And he's successful. He's a millionaire. Whatever. That's not my vision for my life.
But is that success? Right? How do you measure success? It goes back to some very
there love?
Philosophical questions.
So if you
success.
So if that resonates with you, go be mentored by that. We're not saying you're wrong there, but for me, in my house, that's not how I want to live,
right?
Or how I want to be out there in the marketplace. So so I think, to your point, Tim, good call out there. If you've offered to mentor someone, they haven't taken you up on it, it doesn't always mean that that's a reflection of you, but
correct.
Self-awareness there is huge.
You may still be earning the trust, right?
Correct. And then if someone's asking you to mentor them, I think you have to really ensure that you're not just trying to make a mini you, and you got to really go into it, because you got to look at what's best for them. It's kind of like a fiduciary responsibility.
Yes, and also get their styles, because like I remember too, this leader handed me a book one time, and I like to read, but they handed me a book and followed up with me later. Followed up with me later, like, hey, did you read the book? And I'm like,
oh yeah.
No, not yet. Well, you need it. Like, I said, I'm like I'm in 10 right now. And so I just kind of slid it to the bottom. He's like, no, it needs to be on the top. And it was again, that very aggressive, assertive. And I'm like, no.
Was he your boss or she?
No, it was a coach that the boss brought in. And so he didn't really have that spot. He hadn't earned that trust with me. He hadn't earned that right. So now I was younger, and I remember saying something about, I forget. It's like, it's not on my list or something. I was like, I threw it back. And trust me, it was a good book. It's probably back here on my shelf somewhere. I've probably read it since, but, well, I know I read it since, but he was like, yeah, that's my point exactly. So he kind of fired. We had it was funny. I actually tell the story now, but, and I like the guy. I mean, he actually eventually earned my trust, but, endorsed my book actually, but, good guy. But at that moment in time, he hadn't earned my trust. So be careful when you're assertive or aggressive, especially as a leader. You think that your way is exactly the prescription. You need to really think about, you might have a generational gap. You might be talking to somebody who learns better visually, not, like read, or maybe somebody who doesn't read well, they listen well. So really taking the mentorship, mentee-mentor relationship seriously and slowing down, not just tell me what you need, send me this, do this, go to this, plug into this course. We have a whole online library for this. Okay, that's really not cutting it. And I see a lot of
Yeah.
corporations, Andrew, as we coach, they do that. We have all these training resources. Yeah, but who's been the way, gone the way, knows the way, goes the way, and who could show the way and slow down, take some time, and really follow up in this care, this one-on-one care. So mentor-mentee relationship, very deep, starts with self-awareness, goes in, it's about relationship, slow down, coach, a little bit more about that golf swing, a little bit more about that function of the job, the what to do, mentor more about that how to do it, how to preserve yourself doing it, how to last, how to be in it for the long term. So that's kind of my perspective. Alabama, again, Florida, we're sorry, and Alabama.
To all the Florida State fans out there, not to flip the script here, but to all the Florida State fans out there, like, yes, I feel you deserve to be in, but I have a good little quote card right here. It says, "Don't raise your voice, improve your argument."
Hey, can you hold that up real quick so it's on the screen?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be mirrored.
Oh, just hold all the way up. Put it all the way in the camera for like 3 seconds so I can snapshot and share it online. Beautiful.
Well, it's backwards, right?
That's it. No, it's not actually. It was perfect. I could read it perfectly.
Great. With that, thank you guys for joining us for another one, Tim. I'll see you next week, and have a great rest of the day, man. We'll talk next week.
Take care, everybody. Drop us your comments. Let us know.